ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the shop for another episode of Ferrari Motorsports. So you want to be a race car driver? Today's video, I hadn't intended on making it yet, but since our tow rig needs some maintenance, I figured it'd be a good time to cover tow rigs and what you need to consider before committing to your chosen tow rig. Now, we all know that everybody likes to think of themselves as the big bad boss daddy of the motorsports world, but a lot of people don't understand the costs and time associated with that. You know, if you want a big rig hauler, then you're going to be paying big rig money. You know, even a decent used one with 500,000 miles on it is still going to cost you $30,000-$40,000 just for the tractor. And then you have to go out and find a trailer, which while there are a lot of teams that use these race haulers, there's not so many that you're going to find one for really cheap that doesn't need a whole lot of work or isn't just complete garbage to start with. So the vast majority of us, the vast majority of people, ourselves included, will use a regular pickup truck. Some use a lot of people use a half-ton or even a half-ton based SUV or three-quarter-ton based SUV, such as like an F-150, a Silverado 1500, an Explorer, Expedition, Suburbans, things of that nature. Whereas we have a 2006 F-350 dually with the 6-liter Power Stroke. I know a lot of you guys are out there, clutching your pearls and grabbing your crosses. Oh my God, he runs a 6-liter. Well, it's not really that bad, but the reason I know it's not that bad is I know people that have had 6-liters. I know people that like them, that swear by them. And the research that I've seen on these trucks shows that the vast majority of the problems, yes, they do have some problem areas. What truck doesn't? Any truck that you buy is going to have a problem area that somebody has had trouble with in the past. It's just a fact of life. It's just what can you live with and what's in your budget, really. So this truck has actually been a really good truck. This is the first major repair that we've had to make, it needing ball joints. Other than that, we threw brake pads at it, done oil changes, fuel filters, all the typical normal maintenance stuff. But, this is going back to our discussion on cost, what it costs not just to buy the truck and the rig, but what it costs to maintain it. Using good oil and filters, depending on which change it is, costs $120 to $150 doing it ourselves. Now, you might think, I'll just take it down to the local oil change place and they'll do it for $30. No, they won't. Because this truck takes almost 4 gallons of oil. You have to get the right filters. If you get the wrong aftermarket filters, you're going to run into trouble. If you get, bad fuel or something happens, like what happened to our truck, it needs fuel filter. Or not fuel filter, it needs ball joints. Fuel filter, why did I say that? It needs ball joints, and unfortunately, due to a condition that I suffer from, we're not able to complete that repair on our own at this time, so we're going to have to take it to a shop. What should have been a day and about $150 in parts is now probably going to turn into an $8,000 to $1,000 repair, just for the simple fact that I'm not physically capable of completing the repair on my own at this time. So that's the big consideration with buying a rig, a tow vehicle. How much is it going to cost you to maintain it? And the bigger the truck that you get, the bigger your maintenance costs are going to be. That's just the way it is, because the bigger the truck, the more heavy duty it's designed for, it just costs more. There's more material. It might be made to heavier specifications, and parts are just bigger. You look at a ball joint from an F-350 compared to the ball joints that we put in our race car, and it's just a massive size difference based on what the parts are meant to carry. So still on the topic of maintenance, it's not even just the big repairs. They're going to be more expensive because of the tools and the knowledge required. And sometimes just shops don't want to handle bigger vehicles because they're not quite as common as, a Toyota Camry or a Chevy Malibu or whatever road going car they might specialize in or decide that they want to work on. It's just common wear items. Tires are bigger, brakes are bigger. The last, not this truck, but the truck before, I did rotors and calipers and pads all the way around on all four corners, $800 in parts. And that was me going and buying the parts from the parts house directly and using their brand of stuff. That wasn't, that could have been a $1,200, $1,300 bill if I'd have had to take it to the shop or more. Same thing with the wheel bearings and the axle rebuild I did on that truck as well. By the time I got done buying parts and tools and my time involved, we rebuilt the whole axle, about $1,300 all in. Probably would have been a $2,500 bill or better, depending on what else might have been necessary at the time, because I had to do a U-joint in the drive shaft as well. And things like that just kind of compound and pile up on one another. So what might be $1,000, maybe $1,500 on a normal car could easily be double that or more on even a heavier duty pickup truck, just because of the size of the parts and the loads that these parts are designed to withstand. So, biggest point you have to decide before you commit to a tow rig: are you willing to live with the maintenance costs? The bigger the truck, the bigger the maintenance cost. Alright, so now that we have kind of gone over probably the most important aspect of tow rigs, let's talk about picking a tow rig. Now, of course everybody wants to be big bad in the semi with the air horn, rolling down the road with the big trailer plastered with their face on the side. But for the reality, about 99% of motorsports enthusiasts, that's not reality. Even a lot of pro teams, well, not a lot, but some pro teams will roll down the road. They call it tight white just for the simple fact that that's what they can't afford the wraps, or they don't want the wraps for whatever reason. And, well, it can make it look like a commercial enterprise, and then you fall under a lot of regulations that you wouldn't otherwise. But that's kind of a topic for another story. Well, we'll cover that a little bit later on in the video. But as far as picking a tow rig, we kind of have to cover trailers first, just for the simple fact that if you got a big bad trailer and a tiny little truck, you can be in some serious trouble. And I'm not even just talking legal trouble as far as your gross weights are concerned on your truck. I mean, it could just be a safety hazard. If you don't have a truck that's designed to pull that load or rated for that load, you could put yourself in danger, and even worse, you could put other members of the motoring public in danger. And I know that a lot of people always complain about other drivers not being aware of what, especially guys that drive bigger vehicles, that have pulled big trailers and heavy loads. They know how ignorant the motoring public in general can be to what it actually takes to stop one of these rigs. A story I heard a long time ago was that this lady cut off somebody that a friend of mine knew, and he followed her to the parking lot because she had created a really dangerous situation, which if he hadn't been paying attention could have ended really badly. And when this guy got out of his truck, followed the lady to the parking lot, got out of his truck, confronted her about it, she looked at him dead in the face in all seriousness, told him that she figured that he has 18 tires, which means he has 18 brakes, and that means that he can stop faster than she can. So this And there's probably 1,000, 10,000 more stories out there exactly like that. I've personally witnessed oblivious people pulling out on a major highway when I was a kid and I was driving along with my dad. And some lady had a map plastered across her windshield, completely oblivious to the fact that traffic was moving at highway speeds. Just pulled right out in front. And if he hadn't been paying attention, we probably would have plastered her, and it wouldn't have been a good day for anybody at all. So that being said, look at your trailer, see how much it weighs. Just, our trailer is a 38-foot gooseneck enclosed triaxle, mostly steel construction, so it's a fairly heavy trailer. Now, I actually did pull this trailer one time with a 3/4 ton truck. I did it one time because it's not that the truck couldn't pull it, it's the truck wasn't stable, because the truck's suspension wasn't designed to handle the load of the trailer like that. It squatted that thing very badly. And, I did it the one time, and that was enough. I traded that truck in on a 1-ton dually, and the difference, just not even just in safety, just in drivability, was huge. Where I was white knuckling that 3/4 ton because that trailer was wanting to yank the truck all over the road. In the dually, I was lead back doing the Florida lean, no problems, relaxed, calm, cool as a cucumber. So, that's a big thing that you need to consider when picking a rig, is what you're pulling. All right, so one final thought on loads and what you're pulling. It really comes down to safety. If you want to have a big trailer, you need to make sure that you have a truck that is legally rated to pull that trailer. If you go and now I know there's a lot on the internet that says, oh, the trucks are over-designed, they can actually pull this, they can actually pull that. Fine, whatever. And I'm sure that the trucks are over-engineered for what they're rated to pull. However, there's two things you need to consider. One is your safety and the safety of those around you. If the truck is not explicitly designed to haul that load, then you are putting yourself in danger, you are putting anybody riding with you in danger, and you are putting anybody, the oblivious motoring public around you, in danger. It is on you as the driver of that truck and that load to ensure that you are within what you are legally required to be in order to save yourself any headache down the line when somebody inevitably cuts you off and you inevitably wind up in a situation. Fortunately, I have not been in a situation like that, but it's only a matter of time. The second thing that you have to consider is the legality. The DOT, the Department of Transportation officers, each state has one, and there's also on the federal level. But they have these guidelines for ratings, and it's not just the DOT, it's what the manufacturer rates the truck to pull or haul. You have cargo capacity, you have gross vehicle weight rating, which is the maximum that vehicle can weigh with vehicle, fuel, cargo, passengers. And you have maximum gross combined weight rating, which is the most that the truck, your loaded truck and loaded trailer can weigh combined. That's what that truck is rated to control weight-wise. So, and that's not just a suggested number. That's a legal thing that DOT, if in the unfortunate event that you get pulled over by a DOT officer and they want to inspect you, if you are overloaded, they can issue you a ticket. And if you are operating what they would consider a commercial vehicle without the appropriate licensing, they can park you. They can say, this truck is not moving until we get a commercially licensed driver to move it. And that's that. There's nothing you can do at that point. So that's some other things that you have to consider. So now that we've got past maintenance, we talked about our load, what we're pulling. Now we're going to talk about the trucks themselves. Now a lot of people, they want that big heavy duty diesel engine. Personally, I bought the big heavy duty diesel engine just because I like the way they pull compared to a gas engine. Now, over the last 8 years, have I really needed a diesel? Probably not. With what we're getting ready to do with the car and what we're wanting to do in the future, it's going to work out better for us just because we're going to be pulling a lot more than we have in the past. So that's kind of the big debate too in the truck world. There's a lot of guys that have their V10s, they have their big gas V8s, and they say, oh, it pulls just as good as a diesel. I beg to differ. I think diesels pull better. I think a gas engine can get the job done. I just think a diesel engine is better. You get a little bit better fuel economy. It pulls better. And overall, it's just a better experience. But it comes down to how you use it. If you pull once, maybe 2-3 times a year, and the rest of the time is daily driving, then maybe the gas truck works better. You can live with the higher fuel economy or the higher fuel costs when you're pulling because you don't pull all that often. And you make up for it with cheaper maintenance. Gas engines typically don't take as much oil. 87 grade gasoline's typically cheaper than diesel. Especially on the newer diesels, you don't have to worry about DEF, the urea exhaust fluid. And gas engines are a lot less complicated, and going back to maintenance tend to be cheaper to fix because they're not put under the kind of strain and load that a turbo diesel engine is from the factory. And then finally, a lot of people will pick trucks based on brand loyalty. They'll pick them based on reviews they read. FLT, the Fast Lane Truck, is a channel that I pay close attention to just to see what's coming up in the truck market and to see how trucks perform versus one another. And honestly, if I were looking for a brand new truck today, I would probably be looking at a Ram just for the simple fact of their cruise control and integrated brake controls going downhill on FLT's Ike Gauntlet. They did the best out of any of them. The cruise control would hold 35 miles an hour. They didn't have to touch the brakes. They physically touched the brakes. I'm sure that the computer system in the truck probably actuated brakes to keep that speed down. But they put it in automatic engine braking, and there was very little that they had to actually do other than keep the truck pointed in the right direction. But that's not the only thing to consider, especially if you have the budget for a higher end truck. You're looking at maintenance again. You're looking at creature comforts. Our truck's a King Ranch, which is really nice. Got really nice, comfortable seats. Got a lot of creature comforts. And overall, it's just a comfortable truck, even with it being 4x4. And people will say, Ford sucks, Dodge sucks. They all have their problems. I used to be a Chevy guy exclusively. I had a Silverado 1500. I wanted to get a Duramax 3500. My first dually I wound up was an '01 Dodge, a 6-speed manual. I tell people all the time that, the best thing I liked about that truck was nothing in the drivetrain was Chrysler. They're known for having weak transmissions that can't can't stand up to even a stock truck. Ford 6-liters, they have the reputation of blowing head gaskets. Ford 6.4s have the reputation of making oil, which is during the regen event, the extra fuel that gets put in during the exhaust event to burn up the stuff in the particulate filter winds up going down into the crankcase. And I've heard horror stories from all of them. Injectors hanging open on Cummins and burning up pistons that way. I've heard one story about a guy that bought a Duramax brand new, and within 20,000 miles had 2 engine replacements because the crankshaft snapped. It all just comes down to what you want and what kind of experiences you had. Going forward, will we look at other truck brands? Maybe. But the Fords that we've had this '06 and we had an '02 as the last truck. Overall, been pretty happy with them. So we'll probably wind up sticking with them unless we get a screaming deal on something else. But again, a lot of it just comes down to personal preference and what you want to do with it. I decided a long time ago, I've actually had that trailer that I mentioned for better than 10 years now. I decided a long time ago that I wanted a big enclosed trailer. So I needed a truck to handle it. Now, before that, I had a 16-foot flatbed that I pulled with the aforementioned Silverado 1500. And with the tonneau cover that I had on the bed of the truck and some space and racking I probably could have built on a trailer, that would be enough for getting to and from, carrying a few spares, carrying a spare set of tires, getting to and from the track. That would be enough. But, again, it comes down to what you're willing to pay for. I'm paying for 4 extra tires, 2 on the truck, 2 on the trailer, compared to a single wheel truck and a dual axle trailer. I'm paying for the extra size of the parts. I'm paying for the extra cost to maintain the diesel. But at the end of the day, for what we're looking to do, it's worth it to us. Now, if you're just going to come out and do a race or two and then everything goes back away until it's time, for the next year, you might be able to get away with a smaller truck, a half ton, a 3/4 ton, and a small enclosed or even a flat trailer. There's a lot of people, and I see them all over my area, that run flat trailers. They have the tire racks on the front, and it's just a lot of it comes down to what you're willing to pay. Now, as far as my own personal brand recommendation, I'm not going to give one. I've owned or driven all three, and all of the trucks that I had owned or driven or been a part of, they all did the job. And they all did it as advertised. And they all did it pretty well. So at this point, I can't say that I'm brand loyal to any one truck, because at the end of the day, 99.5% of the time, they're all going to get the job done. They're going to get you home. They're going to pull what you want. It's just some trucks are known for one issue, and other trucks are known for other issues. From what I've been seeing in the last few years, the emission systems are becoming pretty reliable, pretty trouble-free. Here's kind of how I like to look at it, especially with the first generation emissions trucks that were, like the Ford 6-liter when they went to the 6.7 and when they started putting it on. It's just like when they started requiring emissions in the 80s. Power was down across the board. Everybody had all kinds of trouble. And it was just a real mess until engineers got their head around the problem. And now you look at the performance offerings that are on the market today. You have cars making 700-800 horsepower or more, sipping fuel in their overdrive gears with fully functioning emissions systems. So, the diesel emissions are going to get there. You just need a little time, and unfortunately, there's going to be failures and problems along the way. Now, is DOT likely to stop a smaller rig? No, not likely. A lot of the times, because a lot of even the bigger, smaller rigs like our rig, most of the time that's for pleasure. That's personal use, which falls a little bit outside of the laws, but you still have to tread lightly and be careful with your, Um, and the fines that they're likely to find are not as cost effective, I guess you would say. So they're more likely to pull over a big rig if they do at all. That's another thing to consider, especially if you have to stop on the side of the road. You know, you got to get this thing moving too. If you've got a truck that is underpowered and underrated for the load you're pulling, you know, if you're trying to merge on the highway, you can create a danger that way too. A lot of highways have minimum speed laws where you have to be traveling at least 45 or 50 miles per hour, and you can get ticketed if you're going slower than that. If your truck can't keep up, especially if it's like a flat land. You know, mountains is a little different just because, you know, gravity and going uphill, can't do much about that. But, you know, minimum speed laws, if your rig can't handle that or can't keep it up, or if it's just pushing you all over the road. Like I said before, I pulled our trailer with a 3/4 ton truck one time. I did it once. And then I went and got a bigger truck because I was so uncomfortable driving that combination that, plus I was completely illegal once I got a little more educated on the weight laws. But I was just so uncomfortable that I needed to step up to something. And, you know, a big enclosed trailer like that, having that extra tire on the outside, you know, aids in stability and just makes it such a nice driving experience. You wouldn't believe the night and day difference between a truck where the trailer is swaying the back end of your truck wherever you're trying to go versus one that says, "Oh, high wind gust. What do you want me to do? I ain't moving." So, big consideration with your loads is making sure that you're staying safe and operating your rig in a safe manner. Making sure that you have a rig that you can operate in a safe manner, just for your own safety, let alone everybody around you. And making sure that you stay legal. Because if you've got a rig and, okay, you know, you got a truck that can pull it, but you're dragging the hitch on the ground, if somebody sees you, they're going to stop you. Because more than likely, they're going to stop you just because it looks unsafe. Really, and I know that we've all seen trucks that clearly should not be pulling the trailers that they're hooked to out on the road. And, you know, we either give them a lot of space ahead of us or we try to get around them as quick as possible just because we don't feel comfortable that their truck can handle what they're pulling. All right, so we're going to close out the video today. I know we covered a lot today, but there is a lot, especially when it relates to safety and weights of your rigs. So we covered maintenance. You know, bigger truck, bigger maintenance cost. That's just the way it is. We covered safety and weights, making sure that you stay as legal as possible and that you are not just driving your rig safely, but you have a rig that you can operate in a safe manner from the get-go. And then we talked about a little bit about picking a truck and, you know, why brand loyalty is kind of bullshit because they all do the same job. They all do it pretty equally well. Some are better than others in some areas and some are better than others in other areas. And it really just comes down to what you want as far as that goes. So, we got a little bit more work to do out in the shop today before we wrap it up and get ready for our normal work week. As always, we really appreciate all the support that comes our way. You guys out there are awesome. If you would please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification button so that when we post another episode, you'll know when it comes out and you can get your next dose of information about what it takes to become a race car driver. As always, here at Fauxrarri Motorsports, our mission is turning miles into smiles.